is it a coincidence that there was so much noise in the world that it just went largely unnoticed, even maybe among members of the church? Maybe not. That's just depends on how much, how conspiracy minded you are, I suppose.
Yeah.
And of course, and of course, I'm all about it. But no, but seriously, like 9/11, all right, happened, and immediately after General Conference, President Hinckley says in his talk, he talks about the Gettyans, and he says, we members of the church, we know about these kinds of people, these kind of conspiracy groups that infiltrate the government, and they work for the purpose of destroying the Lord's church on the earth, which to me, going back and reading that, that's like the craziest thing he could have said. And like a month after 9/11 is that like talking about like government conspiracies to take down the church. Like that's pretty crazy. But like coincidence that the global powers that be are perhaps orchestrating things to try to take away from important timing and messages and important significant proclamations and events of the Lord's church. Like, are those kind of events, obviously not individual leaders of the world are conspiring against the church, but the spirit of the Antichrist in the world ultimately putting things into motion that have negative impacts and makes things more difficult for the church. Certainly that kind of evil spirit is out there and is working, and these things are happening. Like, I'm not saying it's necessarily like a knowingly, like individuals are doing this, but like there's the general Antichrist spirit, of course, is out there in the world and influencing powers that be.
Well, this is representative of the opposition in all things, right? And so just as the Lord was working with his chosen leaders to really make this proclamation and establish this standard, in such a clear and concise way, obviously the adversary is going to be working unknowingly to a lot of the other folks, on the other side. They are pawns in his game, oftentimes unwittingly. They're not even aware that what they're doing or what they're.
It's almost like that's an advantage he has, is that he
100%. Yeah,
people can be working for his cause like unknowingly, where like the Lord's church has to be very deliberate. Like
that's right. And yet his ways cannot be frustrated. That's the power and the ability that
the Spirit also moves among the world.
Correct as well. That is correct as well. So we point all this out though, just to highlight that.
I mean, Christ has already won, so we have that in the bag.
That is kind of the trump card. It's just important that we recognize that this proclamation was given, and yet because of the cares of the world and right, wrong, or indifferent, COVID is certainly a large one that was happening at this time, that proclamation has, by and large been largely unnoticed. And as you said, both internally and externally, within the church and outside the church. And all we're saying is that we should probably spend a little more time and effort really reading through this, focusing on this, and making this more part of our regular study and consideration when we're looking at the restoration.
Hit that like button, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it.
They may seem like little things, but liking, commenting, it helps the algorithm push our content out to more people. So it's our small way of sharing the gospel in a social media age.